Welcome back. So let's just have a look at actually converting our addresses into an input so that we can access it and set it from the outside like we want to do here inside our create component, right? We want to access it from the outside. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we just need to go in above the address right here or next to it and say add input like this, add input. And then we need to do parentheses. Now this is all I have to do. Now I can actually convert this into an input, but of course I need to import something, and that's from the core library, and that's called input right here. So now this guy is an input that we can set from the outside. Sweet. I'll just remove all the information down here for now. I'll just cut it like this, cut. There we go. Now that's out of the way. So we're going to jump into how we actually set this now. How do we actually add some information into the addresses, right? Because now we kind of opened up for the access, but we've not set it yet from the create component. So how do we do that? So I'm jumping into my create component HTML file. And here I'm going to find my address app address list, right? The one we built earlier. I'm just going to make a few new lines here. And then in here, I'm going to do the square bracket, and I'm going to start writing addresses, and it'll help me out here to actually point to that input. So this name right here, addresses, that actually points to this name in here now that we put above, below our input. So this is actually the one that I'm pointing at now. As soon as I put in this input, Angular knows that now by putting in a square, you can actually send information to me from another component. Sweet. But we need to, of course, pass something in. So I'll make something here called addresses, and I'll call it addresses in just to give it another name than this guy. You can call it addresses, that would be fine, but I'm going to call it addresses in just to give it a different name. Now I need to, of course, define this property inside the customer create component, because now, because I'm using the customer create HTML, I need to work with the customer create component to actually create this new input array. So addresses in, right? And that's going to be of the type address array like this. There we go. Now we kind of set up that we can now pass in addresses to this array inside our customer create component. Now what do we need to do as the final thing? Let's just in the ng init just use this addresses in to actually create these the exact same guys that we used earlier, and let's just put in some extra information so you guys can see it's actually changing. I'll save this now. I'll jump back to the view, and everything should still look the same. And it does, right? But the difference here is now instead of actually creating the addresses inside the component directly, I create the addresses inside my customer create component, right? So I just opened up for an access from the outside into actually adding stuff inside my address list component. That's how easy it is to use the input field right here. So you can just, step 1, create the input. Step 2, use the input inside our actual tag right here as a property. And step 3, initialize this guy now in the new component that is actually using this tag. Sweet, that was all we had to do. Now the input is open. Next class we'll have more fun.